Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. Today we will introduce the concept of halal and haram in Islam. The word halal means something that is lawful or permissible according to Islamic law. While haram refers to anything that is prohibited by Allah. This rules guide Muslims in their daily life, especially regarding food and drink. Eating halal food is important because it is an act of evidence of Allah. It also helps Muslims maintain spiritually purity, certain faiths, and ensure that the food consumed is prepared according to Islamic principles. In addition, Islam encourages Muslims to choose food that is not only halal but also beneficial for their health and well-being. That's all.
In Islam, the rules regarding halal and haram are derived from four main sources. The first source is the Quran, which contains Allah's commandments and prohibitions. The second source is Sunnah, which refers to the teachings and practices of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third source is Ijma', of the consensus of Islamic scholars on certain issues. The fourth source is Qiyas, which is reasoning by analogy to determine rules for new situations not directly mentioned in the Quran or Sunnah. Besides being halal, Islam also emphasizes the concept tayyib, which means wholesome, pure, safe, and beneficial. According to Islamic teachings, food should not only be permissible but also clean, nutritious, and free from any harmful to human health. This principle is known as halal al-tayyibat, meaning food that is both lawful and good. Therefore, Muslims are encouraged to choose products not only the halal is sourced but also safe, hygienic, and beneficial for overall well-being.
Now we move on to the classification of animals. The first one is halal animals, which are animals that are permitted by Islamic law to be consumed. The main category, which is al-an'am, refers to domesticated livestock such as camels, cattle, and goats. There are other species which includes buffaloes, sheep, and wild cattle. These animals were created to provide benefits for humans, including meat, milk, and clothing materials. Next one is aquatic animals. In general, all animals that live in water, whether in the sea or freshwater, are halal to eat. There are two types of carrion that are permissible to eat without slaughtering, which is fish and locusts. This ruling applies as long as the animals are not poisonous, venomous, or harmful to human health. For birds, there are halal and haram birds. Most birds are halal to eat, such as chickens, ducks, quails, and pigeons. It is, however, prohibited to eat birds of prey with sharp talons, birds that Muslims are forbidden to kill, and scavenger birds. If there is no clear evidence in the Quran or Hadith prohibiting a particular animal, then the original ruling is that it is permissible to eat.
Next, we will look into the categories of haram animals based on Quran. In general, the Quran outlines several core categories of prohibited animals for consumption, which include carrion, pork, and animals slaughtered in the name of anyone other than Allah. Let's break down the first one, which is carrion. This refers to any animal that dies without undergoing a valid slaughtering process according to Islam, whether it dies of natural causes or by accident. However, Islam provides special exceptions for two types of dead animals, which are dead fish and dead locusts, which are perfectly halal to consume. Moving on to our next category, which animals slaughtered in the name of anyone other than Allah. As stated in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 173, it is strictly forbidden to consume meat that has been sacrificed for rituals, even if the animal is fundamentally halal, like a chicken or a cow. The wrong intention behind the slaughter renders is haram.
Next, we will talk about halal slaughtering from both Islamic and scientific perspectives. In Islam, slaughtering is not just a daily routine. It is an act of faith to show our pure belief in Allah. First, the animal must be from a halal species and it must be fully alive before the slaughter begins. We can check if the animal is alive by looking for movement in its leg or tail. The slaughterer must start by saying Allah's name, like Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Interestingly, a Western study shows that saying Allah's name actually calms the animal down, even if it was aggressive before. For the cutting method, the slaughterer must use a very sharp knife to quickly cut four main vessels in the neck. These are the breathing pipe, the food pipe, and the two main blood vessels called wadajani.
Animal welfare is highly valued in Islam. For example, it is forbidden to slaughter an animal in front of other living animals. Also, if an animal dies from a heavy blow or from modern stunning methods, before it is properly slaughtered, it becomes a carcass and is strictly haram to eat. From a scientific view, cutting the neck vessel with a sharp knife stops the pain signal to the brain. Because of this, the animal loses consciousness within 1 to 3 seconds, meaning it does not feel any pain. This method also helps the dirty blood drain out quickly and completely. Without blood in the meat, harmful bacteria cannot grow. This makes the meat cleaner, safer, and lasts much longer. In conclusion, science proved that halal slaughter has many benefits. However, for Muslims, we follow these rules primarily as ta'abbudi, which means total obedience and faith in Allah's commands.
In this part, I will briefly explain the overview of biotechnology in animal science, including its definition and the difference between traditional and modern biotechnology. Biotechnology in animal science is the use of biological system and living organism to improve animal health, productivity, and the quality of animal products. Traditional biotechnology use natural methods such as selective breeding and fermentation without directly modifying genes. In contrast, modern biotechnology use advanced techniques like genetic engineering, cloning, and gene editing to improve desirable traits in animals. In Islam, the application of biotechnology must comply with halal principle and fatwa, ensuring that the source, production process, and final product are free from haram elements.
So the obligation in animal production is strict species segregation, predators versus halal livestock. Commercial farms must isolate halal livestock from wild predator, as the meat of animal with fangs is strictly forbidden. Next is biosecurity and disease management, where production facilities must enforce strict quarantine zones to keep wild vector away from livestock, because certain haram animals are proven carriers of dangerous zoonotic disease such as dogs carries rabies. Next is preventing haram hybridization, crossbreeding restriction. Breeding programs cannot crossbreed halal animal with haram one like horse or domestic donkey, because the offspring will be automatically become haram under the Islamic legal rule that prohibits outright permissions. Benefits are public health protection and food safety. By completely banning the production and consumption of filth eating or dangerous wild animal, the livestock industry inherently aligned with the divine law of eating only clean, wholesome food.
Hi and Assalamualaikum everyone. Today we will discuss genetically modified organism or GMO in animal biotechnology. Genetic modification is the process of changing an animal's DNA using biotechnology to give it a specific trait such as faster growth, disease resistant or improved productivity. Some examples of GMO animals include aqua avantis salmon, which grow faster than normal salmon, and genetically modified pig that are more resistant to certain disease. GMO are also used in animal feed. For example, genetically modified corn and soybean are commonly used as feed because they produce higher yields and are also more resistant to pests. Thank you.
So next, we are going to the advantages, disadvantages, and ethical issue in animal biotechnology. There are several advantages of GMO animal and animal feed. They can increase food productions, improve animal health, reduce disease, and help farmers lower production costs. However, there are also disadvantages. Some people are concerned about the possible environment impact, unknown long-term health effect, and the loss of biodiversity. From the ethical perspective, Muslims should consider whether genetic modification causes the unnecessary harm to animal and whether the final product remains halal and tayyib, meaning lawful, safe, and wholesome. In conclusion, GMO technology offers many benefits, but it should be used responsibly while considering the ethical, environment, and Islamic principle.
I'm going to talk about the halal status of GMO animals and GMO-derived products, focusing on gene transfer between halal and haram species. Genetic modification means a gene from one organism is transferred into another, for example, a fish gene into a plant or a pig gene into an animal. In fatwa discussion, the issue is not only the final products, but also the gene source, the process, and possible harm. If the gene comes from a halal and pure source, such as fish, and the product is safe, it may be permissible. However, if the gene comes from pig DNA or another haram species, it is generally non-halal. This follows the discussion of mixed halal and haram animals, where the haram element is given stronger consideration. Therefore, GMO products cannot be judged only by appearance. They need scientific verification and halal certification. In conclusion, gene transfer is acceptable only when the source, process, and outcome fulfill halal and tayyib requirements.
So for the next part, which is Islamic perspective on genetic modification. From Islamic perspective, genetic modification is not automatically prohibited. Islam encourages scientific advancement as long as it brings benefits to humanity and does not contradict the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah. To the concept of Maqasid al-Sharia, any genetic modification should protect human life, preserve health, and avoid harm. Therefore, the permissibility of GMO products depends on their source, safety, and purpose rather than their technology itself. If modification is beneficial, safe, and follow Islamic principles, it may be considered permissible.
Good morning everyone. Today, I would like to share how biotechnology can produce valuable products such as gelatin, industrial enzymes, vaccines, and other pharmaceutical products while remaining fully compliant with Islamic principles. Islamic guidelines provide a clear framework for selecting animal sources that are safe, ethical, and halal. One important concept discussed is jalalah, which refers to animals that habitually consume impure substances such as waste or other najis, because their diet may affect the purity of their meat and byproducts. These animals are considered unsuitable for consumption or industrial use until they undergo a purification process. Ultimately, Islamic teachings also provide a practical solution. The animals can be quarantined and fed only clean and halal food for a specific period before they are used. For example, the recommended purification period is approximately 3 days for chickens, 7 days for sheep, 10 days for cattle, and up to 40 days for camels. After this cleansing period, the animals are regarded as pure again, making their tissues and derivatives suitable for halal biotechnology applications. Another important guideline highlighted is the prohibition of using amphibious animals such as frogs and crocodiles. These animals are generally not permissible because they are regarded as harmful, poisonous, or repulsive according to Islamic jurisprudence. Therefore, they should not be used as raw materials in the production of biotechnology products. By avoiding these prohibited sources, manufacturers can ensure that their products are not only halal but also safe and acceptable for Muslim consumers. These principles clearly demonstrate that Islamic law does not hinder scientific progress. Instead, it provides ethical guidance that promotes purity, safety, public health, and consumer confidence throughout the biotechnology production process. This is especially important for products such as gelatin, enzymes, vaccines, and medicines, where the origin of the raw materials plays a crucial role in determining their halal status. In conclusion, the wisdom or hikmah behind these guidelines is to protect both human health and spiritual well-being. By following these ethical principles, biotechnology can continue to innovate while ensuring that its products remain safe, high quality, and fully aligned with Islamic values.
Biotechnology uses animals or animal-derived materials to produce important products for healthcare and the food industry. In pharmaceuticals, example include heparin, which is obtained the pig intestines and is used to prevent blood clotting, and antivenom, which is produced using antibodies from horse to treat snake bite. In food industry, a common animal-derived food additive is chitosan, which is extracted from shrimp and crab shells. It is used as a natural preservative and edible coating to help extend the shelf life of food. Another example is rennet, an enzyme from stomach of young calf, which is widely used in cheese production. However, these ingredients also raise halal concerns. Ingredients derived from pigs are considered haram, while ingredients from cattle must come from animals selected according to Islamic law to be considered halal. In conclusion, biotechnology offers many useful products, but ensuring halal compliance is essential to meet the needs of Muslim consumers. Thank you for your attention.
Next, we will talk about fatwa on modern biotechnology. But first, we need to understand the concept of istihala. Istihala is an Arabic term meaning transformation in Islamic faith. It refers to the complete and irreversible chemical or physical conversion of najis or haram substance into fundamentally new one. If the original form was unclean or haram, the chemical transformation changed it to another ingredient which requires a new ruling. For instance, if alcohol changed and was transformed to vinegar, then it does not remain haram but carries a new ruling which is halal. However, we must oversee this case according to the Islamic scholar opinion.
Based on the book, the law of using epoxy nail inside production of cosmetic product is a must. The arguments that form the basis of the above legal decision are based on the words of Allah SWT. Auzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Wasakhkhara lakum ma fis samawati wa ma fil ardi jami'an min. Inna fi dzalika laayatin liqaumin yatafakkarun. In Malaysia, Fatus and Jakim, Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, support modern biotechnology, including genetic modification (GM), provided it benefits humanity and remains halal and tayyiban, lawful and wholesome. The rulings rely on Makasih Syariah, Islamic legal objective, demanding that all biotechnological products safeguard religion, life, intellect, progeny, and property.
This appears by forcing strict core bioethical principles, which is first, no harm or darar. The technology must not endanger human health, future generations, or biological diversity. Second one is halal sourcing. Any gene or biological material that use, for example, enzymes and additives, must originate from permissible sources.
According to the opinion of Jumhur Ulama Mazhab Syafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, and Hanbali, that the animals that live inside water alone and cannot live without water is halal eaten, based on the words of Allah SWT in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 96.
Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We move to our part, which is challenges, future, prospect and conclusions. So today, the food biotechnology sector is developing rapidly to meet global food security demands. However, as a Muslim, every single one of these innovations must be evaluated through both the lens of science and the principles of Sharia as well. So let's look at three emerging technologies that are currently highly discussed. First is cloning. So scientifically, this is the process of creating a genetically identical copy of a parent organisms using somatic cell nuclear transfer, SCNT. From the perspective of Islamic law, the Fatwa community has declared that human cloning is absolutely haram. However, animal cloning is harus, provided it involves halal animals, aimed for public benefits and does not cause cruelty to the animals. Second, culture meat or lab-grown meat. So this meat is produced inside a bioreactor using animal stem cells fed with a nutrient solution to grow, bypassing the traditional slaughter process. Its ruling, it is of course halal and pure if only the stem cells are sourced from a halal animal, slaughtered according to Sharia, and the growth medium is completely free from any impurities. So third is gene editing, CRISPRs. So this is a technology used to precisely cut or modify an organism's DNA sequence to produce a disease-resistant crops or livestock. So the original ruling is harus for human benefit, but it can turn haram if it involves inserting genes from prohibited sources such as swine, or if it's proven to cause harm to our health. So next, while these technologies brings many benefits, they pose immense challenges to halal certification bodies like Zakir. You know why? Okay, first, at the molecular level, these modified raw materials or microbioenzymes are incredibly difficult to differentiate physically without in-depth laboratory audits. Second, there is the high risk of utilizing doubtful, shubha, or forbidden materials within the supply chain, particularly self-growth media imported from abroad that might contain non-halal enzymes. Third, the rapid pace of laboratory science innovation often moves much faster than the process of legal reasoning ijtihad and the issuance of official fatwa. That is why we urgently need strong synergy between the food scientists and the Sharia scholars to resolve these borderline issues accurately.
So, as smart Muslim consumers, what is our role? 1. Prioritize products that carry a valid and recognized halal verification certificate to avoid commercial marketing manipulation. 2. Make it a habit to read labels and check the raw material ingredients or additive codes on high-tech food products. 3. Stay alert and follow current fatwa issued by religious authorities such as the Mufti's office. And 4. Practice ihtiyat or caution. If the halal status of a new biotechnology product remains doubtful or has not yet been decided by the authorities, the best path is to avoid it to safeguard both our faith and our health. In conclusion, modern food biotechnology undoubtedly offers brilliant solutions to the global food crisis and human sustainability. However, no matter how far science and technology advance, they must always submit to and remain under the umbrella of Islamic law. The parameter of halal and tayyiban must never be sacrificed for mere industrial profit. The future of our nation's halal industry relies heavily on close, inclusive, and continuous collaboration between food scientists and food scholars to safeguard the welfare of the global Muslim community.